Technology has had many changes and improvements throughout the years. All the different stories had some sort of technology that was beneficial to the storylines, whether it be time travel or dystopian society. I couldn't help but think about all the ways technology plays into science fiction. In the stories we read and watched, technology was somewhat of a big part of them. However, it was most important in the Terminator and the Hunger Games movies. Starting off in the time travel section, and Kindred in the Longeries, the reason that they time traveled was not revealed. But in the Terminators, there was a reason, and there was some sort of device that allowed it to happen. The first Terminator movie was made in 1984, so the technology was limited to what they had or what they could think of at that time. This wasn't very much, considering technology was very different in 1984 compared to present day. The first Terminator has a very basic sense of technology. Not that time travel is basic or anything, but they don't expand much on the different types of technology in time travel or what they used. Of course, there are plenty of technical things that are in this movie, like the machine itself that they used to time travel with, or cars, payphones, and the weapons that they use. The Terminator could also be a part of something that you could say of technology, because he's a robot and he has multiple gadgets and weapons built into him to make him seem completely futuristic. If we're comparing the first Terminator movie to the Terminator Genesis, which I am, they're both very different on the technological spectrum. If these movies were made in 2050, everything would be different. I'm sure that in 30 years between now and then, there would be so much more technology than we have now. So Terminator Genesis was made in 2015, so there automatically was more technology than there was in the first Terminator. So if it was made 30 years in the future, this could mean so much more for the movie and the different timelines in it. Overall, in the Terminator movies, technology is important, and because if they didn't have it, they wouldn't have a storyline. The movies rely on the fact that the future has technology to transport someone, or in this case, both human and robot, to the past. Moving on to Kindred and the Longeries, they don't necessarily rely on technology the way the Terminator does. Kindred took place in the 1970s, so naturally the author didn't use a lot of technology because there wasn't very high technical gadgets available in the 1970s. I feel that it's okay for Kindred not to have technology, especially because she is traveling back to the 1800s. If she was traveling to the future, then obviously she would have to have much more technology than she did now. But since it's only the 1800s, it just wouldn't make sense. It also wouldn't make sense for her to bring any of her technology into the 1800s from the 1970s, because it just wouldn't make sense unless the characters asked her to, which they didn't, so that's not what happened. Bringing the present tech to the past would cause a huge time ripple and make a whole order change, which would change basically the order of time to forever. Now, in the Longeries, I never know how to pronounce that. Longeries, they have some tech, but not as much as the Terminator and not less than Kindred. In the Longeries, in order for them to time travel, they have to be on a plane. And the plane is obviously technology in itself, but I don't necessarily think that the plane was invented to time travel. I think that more relied on time and place in what they were doing. It just kind of happened. The book doesn't have extreme technology, but it has the basic stuff, like, like the transportation, the weapons, and such. In the future, they didn't really have electricity, so there wasn't a lot of technological opportunities in that time that they could use. Moving on to the dystopian societies, The Hunger Games was probably the most technological-based story we learned about. Starting from the beginning of the story, it takes place many years in the future. It doesn't give an exact date, but we can assume that it is well over 75 years because the games have been going on for 75 years. Not to mention the war, however long that took, and what life was like before that. So we're not entirely sure how far in the future this is, but I'd say past 75 years. So, they obviously had a very long time to create and perfect lots and tons of new technology. The games itself was one big technical scheme. The game makers make their own little world on their computers or whatever they use, and it can make anything happen just with a click of a button. That would require some extreme technology to be able to do that. Then there's stuff that they add into the games. For example, the weather changes, or creating poisonous plants that no one has ever heard of, or adding creatures in the game without even having to think about them. They just add them right in. And then there's also the point of fashion. Now, you probably would say, really, fashion? But I think it's pretty important because a big part of Katniss is her dress that is on fire. So the fashion has technology in itself. The dresses that Katniss wears are so technologically advanced, they're able to set it on fire, not start a huge roaring fire throughout the crowd or hurt Katniss in any way, but make a new dress from the ashes. This is a huge symbol of Katniss, and it is revealed that the world that they're living in is completely different from and way more advanced than what we're present in. Everything is different in the Hunger Games. All of the technology is ridiculously advanced. It makes sense considering how far in the future it's supposed to be set, or how far I think it's supposed to be set. All of these stories have their own way of showing the time period and how far advanced that they are from that technological standpoint. Some of them are not as extreme as the rest, but overall, technology seems to be very popular in science fiction, in the science fiction genre, and we should probably expect to see a lot more movies and books exploring more that they can do with technology and where they can take people to see their own visions for our world's technological future.